Hi friends, I'm Gio, and welcome to this week's story. It's called, I Was Out on a Date with My Girlfriend When I Ran Into the Guy I Had a Crush on Back in high school. Let's begin. Hello, Cupcake. I wanted you to know the truth, so I wrote it down so I wouldn't make a mistake. Just in case, well, you know how nervous I can get. It happened a year ago, yesterday, Friday, October 13th. A normal kind of day for a normal college student coming from a normal family with normal finances. Add to that, my normal girlfriend of 2 years, Mara Peters. That was my last normal day. Everything changed that night. I keep telling myself it wasn't real. Maybe it was the beer. But deep down, I knew better. I should never have gone to the Goblin Cemetery. It changed everything I thought I knew about myself. My best friend Herb, my girlfriend Mara, and me live in Triple Falls, Montana, a tiny town about as backward as any. The nearest real city is Missoula. That's where we were at this charming Friday night. I'm Adam Schindler, art major and theater minor at the University of Montana. It's only a 30-minute drive to Missoula. Quick stat check. I'm 5'9", 154 pounds, golden brown hair, and golden brown eyes. Any regrets? Right after high school, I asked this guy who had lived in Japan for a couple of years about a cool symbol meaning fire, or phoenix. We did our research, or thought we did, and had it placed right on my left deltoid. It looks great. However, when I started my sophomore year, I was playing basketball in a sleeveless tank with the guys when this new girl from Japan saw my shoulder. She barely spoke English, but she started laughing. Turns out it really means prostitute. I'm still teased for that one. Friday night, we drove to the Goblin Cemetery, about 10 miles east of Missoula. Every year, the farmer donates his cornfield so the university can make money. The KBGA College Radio 89.9 FM is on hand with personalities and live streaming the chaos, and members of the theater department helped out in the Carnivore Carnival. It smelled of dried corn stalks, dust, and hamburgers cooked too long. In case you hadn't guessed, the Goblin Cemetery is a big old corn maze. I brought Herb. Mara brought her friend Tracy. She had graduated beauty school and had landed a job at some boutique. Mara and me, Herb and Tracy. It was supposed to be a double date. I had dressed up for Mara, and a Mary watercolor tee with blended greens and blues, Dior slim fit faded denim jeans, and high tops. They always made me look taller. Add to that my cologne my grandfolks had given me for Christmas, a sexy-smelling Versace Eros. Friday night, about 8, we had to wait in line for 45 minutes. Unlike other haunted attractions, they only allowed 50 people in the maze at a time. When someone left, someone entered. Mara and Tracy chattered about some song they'd seen on YouTube, even clustered around Mara's phone to watch the video. Herb looked at something on his phone, staying politely close to his date. I kept my phone put away because Mara always complained I spent more time on it rather than with her. It felt like we were on the outs and just hadn't verbalized it yet. I don't think Herb liked Tracy. He never did like girls who prattled on about makeup tutorials and which Kardashian was fighting who. Directly ahead of us was an old skinny guy in a tie-dyed tee. He glanced behind us. A surfboard pendant swung on braided leather around his neck. Multiple beaded bracelets gripped his lower arms, and pale sandals protected his feet. Ahead of him were a group of guys, one in a mesh tank, another in a black tee with rainbow paint splotches spilling from the shoulders, and someone I recognized. Is it cliche to say my heart fluttered? Because it did. Devin, the school mascot and cheerleader from high school. I hadn't seen him since he had graduated 5 years ago. A year older than me, I was a junior wishing I could be friends with one of the best-looking guys in school. Some kid yelled. A grill sizzled, the air filled with the smoky scent of fried bread. 2 searchlights highlighted the clouds, and on a nearby stage, dancing pyros played a cover for Earth, Wind and Fire's I Like the Way You Groove. I never considered myself attracted to guys. I mean, we all have guys we like, but they aren't crushes. Exactly. Devin was the star gymnast, cheerleader, and wore the mascot costume. A snarling coyote who threw candy into the crowds. Back at Sarah Bickford High, the mighty coyotes. The man could do standing backflips on command, and he still held the high school pull-up record for most number performed in 1 minute. I had gone to almost every home game just to watch him in that silly coyote costume, praying for moments he would take off the head and look at me. I wanted him to look into the stands and see me, see how much I wanted to be friends with him. I even went to some away games, if they weren't too far. Was I a creepy stalker back then? I didn't think so. I barely even spoke to the guy. He looked better now than back in high school, dressed like he was heading to a party in low-slung white shorts, a skin-tight vintage cut-off Rocky Horror black tee with Freddie Mercury leering out the front as only he could, Devin's tight tanned navel naked to the world. Something deep inside me succumbed to his sheer sexy charm, to his iridescent midnight teal hair and golden eyes. My heart froze as I saw him, the lean taper of his back. His long legs looked longer because he wore no socks, only dark brown fisherman sandals. A woven black leather anklet highlighted his left ankle. He must be dressed for a night of clubbing, maybe looking to get dark and dreary with somebody. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't speak. How I wish it was me, standing next to him. Someone howled in the speakers behind us. Devin glanced my way. I couldn't stop staring, heart thundering. Would he remember me? His gaze met mine. A brief upward half-smile tweaked his lip. I shivered. The old thrill from high school rumbled up and down my spine. His look lingered, holding mine. Was that a nod? Did he remember me? The world slowed around me. I struggled to breathe, to inhale. A lady yelled, "Are you next in line?" Some kid at the carnival screamed, "I won!" The smell of fresh popcorn filled the air. Sometimes, when I was annoyed with Mara, which seems all the time lately, I had wondered what had happened to Devin. On my 21st birthday, I admitted to my dad about my feelings about Devin, my regrets of never acting on them, about Devin, how I was afraid I might be, gay. Dad shrugged, gave me a cryptic smile and said, "I'd still love you. Word of advice, if life gives you a second chance, be sure to jump, or you'll regret it for the rest of your life." I remember that moment, the crinkle of burger wrappers on the kitchen table, the burn of the jalapeno cheese fries, the smell of the ketchup. A second chance. Was this it? I hadn't thought about Devin for a while, figuring the issue was dead anyway. Yet here he was, as if the universe planned a little surprise. But Devin was a guy. I wasn't gay, so what did I feel about him like this? He wouldn't remember me anyway. Mara giggled loudly and said in a very affected tone, "Please, if only Adam had abs like that." "Like what?" I asked. The girls giggled, turning the phone away, their laughter turning scornful. "You always complain when I'm on my phone," I said, my tone not quite bitter. I shoved my hands into my jeans pockets. "I haven't gotten it out once tonight, and here you are, on yours." "Don't be so sensitive. Only like 2% of guys even have them," Tracy said, blowing a bubble with her gum. It popped, smearing on her lips. She picked it off and started chewing it again. I forced myself to keep a calm face. Being with Mara had been fun. Once. Months and months ago. Girls were supposed to mature faster than guys. So why did Mara act like a 12-year-old? Because I had slaved at Mildred's diner for the last 5 years, while graduating high school and working on my art degree, Mara had had 12 part-time jobs and no savings. Guess who paid for everything? Mara couldn't hold a job longer than 3 months and had no plans for any education. Mara gave an exaggerated shrug with her right shoulder, but remained focused on the blue screen in front of her. "It's none of your business, Adam." "Are you going to explain?" I asked, "or act like a hypocrite?" "No," she said, pointing at something on her screen. Tracy squinted, peering closer, and laughed. "Why can't I date someone who looks like that?" Mara replied, "We take what we can get." "What does that mean?" I said, folding my arms. Mara looked at me. "Just girl talk." Herb glanced at me, his shoulders tight. "Don't argue with him. You'll only lose." A heat began to rise in my cheeks, and I turned to my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. "Would you tell me?" "Do you think he does 1,000 sit-ups a day?" Tracy said, holding her hand to her own stomach. 2,000? Adam, you better get started before Mara dumps you." "It's all about the abs," Mara said, looking at me. "Don't mean to hurt your feelings, but you are a little wobbly in the tummy." Blush alert, blush alert, blush alert. My right fist tightened. I swallowed the embarrassment down. Tracy chuckled the loudest before they both turned back to the phone. Herb only shook his head. "I'm going to price churros." He wasn't having fun either. Mara and Tracy cackled even harder at the next picture. Mara finally said, "Don't take us serious, Adam. You know I love you anyway. But Tracy, count that guy's abs. It's an 8-pack. She couldn't finish because she was staring at her phone so hard. Her unspoken message was clear. I didn't have a 6-pack, therefore I wasn't as interesting as the Photoshop Instagram guys she drooled over. I folded my arms and waited. "Oh, Lord, imagine running your tongue on that stomach," Tracy said. "He must have eaten 0 carbs and done 3,000 sit-ups a day for the last 6 months. Mara must have noticed the look on my face because she lowered the phone. "Don't worry about it, Adam," she said, batting her eyes and pouting. "Be a good boyfriend and get us some drinks. I'll forgive you for getting mad." Tracy waved her hand as if dismissing me. "You better be careful, girl. Adam is an angel to put up with your mouth." Mara looked back at her phone, forgetting me entirely. Tracy gave me a downward smile as if she almost sympathized with me. The old man in the tie-dyed shirt shrugged, giving me a simple smile, and said, "Maybe it's time for new company." For one tick of a clock, our eyes connected. The old man had dark eyes that had seen forever. Take it from someone who has surfed in more oceans than you can dream. You need to turn left, my friend. You never know when love will drop in. He leaned his head to the left, in the direction of the carnivore carnival. The light reflected on the surfboard pendant around his neck, on the letter C embossed on it. If I wanted to stay on Mara's good side, I'd have to get her a drink. It's always what Mara wants. What did I get out of our relationship? The occasional sex which I'd begun to think she was faking. I'll be right back, I muttered. Maybe I should duck out and take an Uber. When Mara was like this, she was a pain to be around. You seriously think I'm having fun, Adam? Get me a drink before I lose my mind, Mara sneered. You think I want to be in this landfill? It smells like a horse took a dump in a bonfire. I swear, if you weren't so rich, I'd dump you. Chop chop, get me a root beer, now. Get me a cola, Tracy ordered, one hand on her hip. But she never stopped looking at the phone. I had gotten dressed up for this. No sex was worth this level of humiliation. When was the last time we'd even slept together? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? 2 years of dating and it had come to this? Maybe it was time to move on. I left Mara and her friend as I stopped to the Carnivore Carnival in search of a root beer, her current favorite. But I didn't watch where I was going, or my feet didn't. My foot stuck for a second on a tuft of grass. I lost my balance and fell. The sudden horror lasted all the way down. I face-planted onto Devon. Not his arms, that would have been cool. Not onto Freddie Mercury's huge smile, that would have been funny. Lower. Think humiliating. I nose-planted onto the heat of Devon's tight, tanned navel. His skin smelled mysteriously rich, an upscale, fragrant musk. It gave me a chance to notice the words underneath Freddie Mercury. Wouldn't you rather live? With a vibrant pair of ruby red lips next to it. I reached out to steady myself, grabbing the only thing I could. Oops. Devon's waist. His slim, toned, athletic, gymnastic, sexy, even sexier up close, waist. You okay? Devon asked, helping me stand. Sorry, I mumbled as I stood, accidentally close enough to smell his hair. It smelled of strawberry shampoo, and his cologne, something spicy, high-end. My hand still held him, just below the ragged hemline of his shirt, onto bare skin, his solid, taut core, the forgotten passion of my high school dreams. This can't be happening. I bid back the horror, the humiliation. Oh, God, the second worst moment in my life. Devon's tea lifted. My hands brushed his warm flesh just above his white, low-slung shorts. Skin-to-skin contact, his body solid like I imagined. Look at those abs. How? Softly escaped my lips. Devon snorted, catching where I was staring. My blush deepened as I dragged my gaze back up to his eyes. Smoldering and tight, my sharp inhale, the quickening of my heart. I held my breath on the edge of a feeling I couldn't name. I dropped my hands to my side. I should look away. I'm making a fool of myself, but I can't. Bicycle crunches, 20 reps, 5 sets, every other day. He turned, steadying me so I didn't fall, his golden eyes locking on mine. A steel ring with rainbow stripes on his bright little finger. I don't remember him being gay. Or maybe he knew somebody who was gay. Back in high school, he knew everybody. Yet in his steadying grip, My sleeve lifted just enough to reveal my tattoo. The tattoo that I thought meant Phoenix. "What's the kanji?" he said. "Don't worry about it. It's just an expensive mistake." "Oh, God," I prayed. "Please don't ask anything else." "Tell me," he said. "I love stories." I paused, looking away, my throat tightening. "It means prostitute." Devon's eyes flickered to the tattoo, narrowed as if it were familiar. Oh, God. Hadn't he gone on some trip with his parents to Japan for graduation? My stomach took the express elevator all the way down. It felt like I had pebbles in my brain cavity. "It's still a nice tat," he said, again with that half-smile that should be registered as a deadly weapon. It took a moment before I nodded. Devon knew. Did Devon know how much I like him? You know in horror movies how the victim always freezes when faced with the slasher? That was me. This was the worst and most exciting moment in my life. He smiled as he recognized me. "You're Adam from high school, right?" My jaw dropped about 3 stories. He remembered me? Even knew my name? Had we ever spoke? We'd had a couple of classes together. Accidentally sat next to each other at an assembly. Even sat together in the counseling office as we waited our turn for the obligatory yearly college and career counseling session. It wasn't a crush. Guys don't feel crushes for guys. It was only a guy wishing he could be friends with another guy. Besides, Devon had been a senior while I was a junior. We weren't in the same grade. So why did he remember me? My face grew warm for the second time that night, but this time it seemed comfortable. "It's good to see you again," Devon said, his expression as warm as I remembered. I forced my voice through the emotions blocking them and said, "Hi, my bad. I didn't mean to run into you." I quickly stepped back. He rubbed the back of his neck, momentarily biting his lip. "Adam," Devon said, "the guy who ran laps in gym class for like an hour straight. I always wondered why you never applied for track. We had afternoon gym together, when I wasn't on road for the games." "I cooked burgers at Mildred's Diner," I replied. "Once I turned 16, folks made me pay for everything except school fees, so I had to get a job. 4 hours a night, every night except Sundays and Wednesdays." His eyes focused on mine as he asked, "You paying your way through college too? Tuition, apartment, the works?" I nodded. "I'm still at Mildred's too." "Pays pretty good?" he asked. The line moved forward. His friends moved away from us. Devon noticed the shift in line, drew me forward, and guided me along with them. "I get by," I said. "It's not fancy, but I'm living the dream." We were almost at the front of the line when Devon asked, "You here alone?" "You see, I had a boyfriend. He's now an ex. Long story. But my friend, he invited me so I wouldn't sit in my apartment getting drunk." I glanced back at Mara cackling over her phone. Her and Tracy hadn't noticed I had left. My best friend had wandered away as well, a stoic set to his eyes and a tightness in his jawline, finding solace in one of the carnival games. The girls had never noticed. Herb and I had left. So much for them complaining that I had been on my phone too much. Herb sent me a text. "Let the witches find their own ride." I turned back to Devon. "Funny, I had a girlfriend, but I'm about to break up," I said. "Consider me free." He smiled, a natural smile that warmed my heart, and said, "My friend has brought his boyfriend, making me the third. But if you'll be my impromptu date, it becomes a double date. I heard this place can get pretty intense, but it's more fun if you're with someone. I took one last look at my girlfriend, make that ex-girlfriend, for the last 2 years, and made a decision I should have made weeks ago. "Why don't we talk about high school?" I asked, my hands going cold and something in my stomach getting hot. "I don't remember you being gay back then. When did you come out?" Devin looked down, running his fingers through his iridescent blue hair. "I didn't dare back then. I thought my dad would have a heart attack and my mom would have gone into hysterics. Then they'd kick me out. Not to mention the kids in high school always bullying the gay kids. I thought I had an image to maintain, or something stupid." "How did it happen?" I asked. "It was worse," Devin said. 2 years after I graduated, I sat on the back porch in this old scratchy lawn chair. The sun was hot and I had snuck one of my dad's beers out of the fridge. It was Saturday afternoon, about 4, and I was the only one at home. Mom and Dad had gone to some wedding shower for a relative I'd never heard of. I was looking up porn on my laptop, earbuds in, and didn't even hear when their car pulled up. Turns out Mom had forgotten the gift, and they had to hurry home. Dad walked by me, saw what I was looking at, and took the laptop from me. "Your dad caught you looking at gay guys doing the nasty?" I almost chuckled, feeling how embarrassed I'd have been if my dad had discovered that on my computer. Devin let out a long sigh. "That's when I found out my parents were home. Believe me, I know what a piece of gum feels like under an asphalt road roller." "Ouch," I replied. My God, was that the best thing I could say? I hadn't seen Devin in 4 years, and I could only give him a one-word response when he was telling me the most painful story of his life. "That must have been awful," I quickly added. Mentally, I screamed at myself. Devin barely smiled as he continued. "Dad showed Mom my laptop. Mom stared at me, folding her arms. Then she stared at the image on my screen. I remember her saying, 'Do you ever wonder how they zip up their pants? Sounds like a father-son night. I hear Gordon's Gourmet Burgers has a special this weekend. Honey, you take care of this. I'll make an appearance at my sister's and deliver the gift.'" "What will you tell them? You know your mom," Dad said. "Devin needed a moment with his dad," she said, heading with the gift to the door. "Save me some French fries." "They didn't care?" I asked. Devin looked at a distant marquee advertising the cursed carousel, a spectral merry-go-round with a dozen gothic horses sporting glowing red eyes, forever galloping in a circle. "My parents were more concerned that I was too scared to talk to them." He grunted, almost a chuckle. "They thought they had failed because I didn't trust them with the big stuff." "Then you are gay?" I asked, dumbly trying to keep the conversation moving. "With a capital G-A-Y, he said, his thumbs hooked in the pockets of his white shorts. "You?" "Double E," I said, nodding in Morrow's direction. "Exiting from the X." Devin glanced her way, then leered at me with a flirty quirk of his eyebrows. "I've had X problems too. So you're using me for my body. I don't mind, and I won't tell if you won't. Don't take this wrong, but you look nice." I tried not to smile, but inside me warmed. The last I saw of Mara, they were still engrossed in the phone. I'd have to dump her by text for her to even realize I was gone. Why bother? I was on a date with another man. My feet stopped moving. My throat didn't swallow. How did this happen? The air smelled of chocolate, smoke, and churros. The band had switched to some K-pop song I didn't know, and some barker yelled, "Hold tight to your lover's hand." Devin noticed how I lagged behind. "You don't mind?" he asked. "Mind what?" "You're straight. I'm gay. We're..." He paused as if unsure of the right word. "We're, kind of like, going on a date." I was about to reply, but words escaped me. What was I? Adam must have guessed my thoughts because he said, "The Q in LGBTQ can also stand for questioning. You don't have to decide. Just be you." Once again my feet stopped. What was I? A little tiny light bulb flashed in my head. The inner chaos lightened. Maybe it didn't matter what I was, only that I was comfortable with myself. I took hold of Devon's warm hand, not willing to let go, the truth blossoming in my mind. Every time I stood close to Devon, I ached to be with him. Listen to me. When did I become a romantic? So why did I turn to Devon and say, "It's not a date if you haven't taken me out to dinner, or gone dancing, or anything romantic," and then stepped closer into his warmth? Devon looked at me as if I had just lost my mind. I think I had. What had I just said? Did that come out wrong? I grimaced and tried to say sorry, but the tone came out kind of shy. What was wrong with me? I'm a blubbermouth teenager all over again. Devon pursed his lips together, gave me a sultry look with his gold eyes narrowing slightly, and he leered as he replied, leaning close enough to my ear to nibble on it. "Challenge accepted, Cupcake. Dinner, dancing, romance. Seduce a straight guy from high school who has a crush on me. Got it," he teased. "What?" I blurted out. He knew? Had he guessed the truth? Or was he flirting? Was what I experienced a crush? Oh God, I'm in trouble. He intertwined his fingers with mine, a casual intimacy, and guided me to the bored-looking vampire lady in the ticket booth. He pulled his card out and said, "2, please, 1 for me, and 1 for my date." She looked at me. "Why do you gay guys always get the hot ones? It's not fair for the rest of us." She passed us 2 armbands. I am pretty lucky. Adam knelt in front of me, kissed my hand, and placed the band on my wrist with all the solemnity of placing a ring on somebody's finger. I can't believe it. Adam paid for my ticket, and the ticket seller called me hot. An annoying text buzzed. I quickly checked my phone. My best friend wrote, "About time you ditched Mara. I won't stay up late," followed by a thumbs-up emoji. Herb had seen me holding hands with Devon, and he didn't care? I stifled a chuckle. Surprisingly, I was okay with holding hands with Devon. Maybe this time I deserved to be happy. Maybe dating a guy made me happy. Maybe what I had felt in high school had actually been a real crush. My body relaxed. Maybe I'm not gay, but I sure liked being with Adam. I sent back a smiley face emoji, put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and slid it back into my pocket. Devon led the way, past a fire burning inside an old oil drum, some guy dressed as a zombie, checking wristbands, and into the cornstalk maze. It smelled of autumn, drying leaves, wood smoke, something sizzling on a nearby barbecue. Somber mood lights cast faint pools of warmth throughout the maze. Small, hidden alcoves hid zombies, or mirrors, or strange animatronic dolls that jumped out when we got too close. Devon's friends went one way. We went another, holding hands, talking about high school, about life. Devon spoke about his last boyfriend. I complained about Mara. The band played some metal hit from Days Gone. The searchlights wove arcane patterns in the sky, and a couple of werewolves chased Devon and me. We ran through ragged cornstalks, their dry leaves scratching at our clothes. And we were laughing. The air smelled of caramel and apples and hamburgers. Around a bend, we found a vampire waving over a large barrel filled with green gel, red blood vessels, and floating eyeballs. "Pay $1, dive deep, and win a prize, but only with your mouth," he yelled. Devin glanced at me. I pulled out $1. "I dare you." He chuckled, snatched the dollar from my hand, gave it to the vampire, and plunged his head into the green goop. He didn't even think about it. A second later, he emerged, green slime dripping from his head, an eyeball in his teeth. "My hero," I said, laughing. He split the eyeball in two, revealing a small paper. Like a fortune cookie, it had a message. "Free churro." Adam pulled $1 from his pocket and grinned, wickedly, at me. "Your turn, Cupcake." "No, that's disgusting. I'm not doing it," I argued, raising my hands in protest. Adam unleashed his secret weapon, the most intense puppy dog eyes I have ever seen. I melted. I was powerless. I would do anything he wanted. He led me to the slime bucket. I can't believe I'm doing this. I took one last look at the sane world I knew. Green slime, red veins, eyeballs drifting like lost marbles. Definitely not sanitary. Here I go. I held my breath, counting 1, 2, 3. My eyes closed, tight, hesitating. For a heartbeat, I took a deep breath. I plunged my head into the cold green slime filled with blood vessels, searching with my tongue for an eyeball. A freaky baptism, shedding the man I used to be into the slime. The slime tasted like lime jello, with long slivers of beets for the blood vessels. Weird. A moment later, my tongue touched something smooth. An eyeball. Gulping gel, I gripped a plastic sphere in my teeth. I pulled my head out with a squelching sound. Somebody yelled, "That's revolting." Adam gripped my shoulders, slime dribbling from his grinning face, and said, "Fun, right?" I stepped away from the bucket, removed the eyeball from my jaws, split it open, and read, "Free churro." Why waste a perfect opportunity to get even more disgusting? I took a big swipe of slime, smeared it across Devin's lips, and said, "I'll show you fun, Cupcake." I leaned in, hesitated as I stared into his golden eyes, hypnotized by memories of lust nearly forgotten, and kissed him right in the middle of the lime green slime on his lips, right on top of a red beet blood vessel, his lips slightly parted, his breath warm, smelling of mint. I've never kissed a man before, but I lost myself in the moment. Devin's lips parted as he took a shallow breath. Before our kiss continued, mashing green goo and slimy blood vessels between us, his hands held my waist, a tight, sultry grasp. We broke apart long enough for him to whisper, "Is this our first date?" Something had shifted inside me. The old feelings exploded. I couldn't get enough of him. All the years I had watched him from afar, longing to be close, longing to be more than random strangers who happened to have the same class. And here I was. We found the middle of the maze, a setup with scarecrows and pumpkins screaming quotes from horror movies. Devin took my hand, and to the dynamic music of Stray Kids and the emotional undertones of Taman, led me to an open area. We danced for hours to the exotic roars, wails, and blood-curdling screams that flooded the maze. I glanced at Devin. He smiled back. I can't believe how much fun I'm having. During a rendition of "I'm Crying," by Taman. I relaxed in Devon's arms, laying my head on his shoulder. We slowly danced and softly talked. I let my vulnerability show, but I had to know. Out of the thousands of people at high school, why do you remember me? It's been years. Devon paused a moment, holding my head tight to his shoulder. My family supported who I was, but they never had time for other things. They barely came to my games, and though they loved me, they preferred it if I wasn't a cheerleader. Too expensive, my dad said once. That must have hurt, I said. Adam took a deep breath, and when he spoke it was tender and intimate. You were there at every single home game. At first I thought it was because you liked sports. Then I heard you chanting my name. You were coming to the games for me. You became my good luck charm. You see, it can be pretty scary performing in front of all those people. I always looked for a friendly face, and there you were. I didn't know, I whispered. I'd always thought I'd been invisible, that no one noticed me. Stupid me, he said, snorting. I was too afraid to say anything because you would have thought I was crazy. We exited the maze sometime before midnight, back into the carnival, holding hands. Devon led us to a food truck deliciously titled the Slaughterhouse Cafe, where we ordered haunted pork curry with scorpion served with naan and yellow rice. It wasn't a real scorpion, but a plastic toy on top. I think you've got it wrong. Show me your tat, Adam said. I rolled up my sleeve and he took a picture with his phone. A minute later, he showed me the translation. It didn't mean prostitute at all. The girl hadn't known English very well. It meant phoenix. I laughed. All it took was a phone to solve my most annoying problem. I lightly kissed Devon and said, "Thank you." We were feeding each other, talking about dreams, about school, about jobs, when Mara and Tracy walked over. I had just eaten an eyeball, a peeled potato stuffed with a mini mozzarella ball dyed red, topped with a black peppercorn, my hand resting casually across Devon's stomach, when Mara yelled, "Where have you been all night? Why didn't you answer my text? Where's our drinks? Did you and Herb ditch us?" My mouth full, I sat up and checked my phone. 8 missed texts from Mara. Before I could say anything, Tracy laughed, squinted at Devon and said, "Mara, I told you Adam was too good for you. Time for you to do your own 2,000 sit-ups. Adam found his own 2% and upgraded. Consider yourself dumped, girl." Actually, Devon whispered, only inches from my ear, I'm the one who upgraded. That was a year ago, yesterday. Tonight we celebrated our love by returning to the Goblin Cemetery, ordering haunted pork curry with scorpion served with naan and yellow rice from the Slaughterhouse Diner, and collected 2 more scorpions. Because tomorrow we will decorate our wedding cake with 4 scorpions. Thank you for listening, everybody. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the prayers and well wishes. They've really helped. I love all of you. Peace, my friends.